down to the, you know, waste receptacles, those sort of things. Some of the other properties that are out there, though, we could kind of look at too and add that in there. You know, Backfire is a property that we just talked to with our west zone. There's kind of old falling down fence along there. I mean, it's kind of a preserved natural area, but even just getting that fence removed and getting a nicer sign, our sign's kind of hanging on by a thread there. Those kind of things we're already looking at, just even sort of, you know, in some of those areas where, you know, they're more of a preserved area, but again, just, you know, kind of getting some things dealt with. So, I mean, we can add in there kind of prioritizing and looking at what areas, and, you know, Paul and I can talk and look at sort of maybe a few of those, you know, developing kind of a priority plan of some of the things that need to be addressed there. When we get into kind of accessing that, that gets into, again, you know, what's actually allowable at some of the properties, and then also, you know, looking at from a standpoint of, you know, if it's a very small parcel, again, and this is just, you know, to me, if it's less than 100 acres, a lot of times even doing a trail system doesn't make sense. Like John was saying with resources, if we're utilizing our construction crew at Veterans Legacy Woods for the next 2 years, it really limits what we can do somewhere else. So if we want to make it a priority to look at some of these smaller properties, we can definitely, but we might have to shift around maybe sort of what
I completely agree, but I think that as you guys are working on this list and giving us, you know, the, you know, utilization and et cetera, I think it would also benefit, when did we acquire, what year did we acquire this property, right? And which one of these has zero access? And which ones are left, which ones in here are not restricted in some way, shape, or form, would even be helpful, and have no access whatsoever? Because then if we're pulling those out, we're saying, okay, look, there's only 8 left, and they only have 12 acres and 22. It may be easier, but right now it's just this long list that's hard to pick through. And, you know, there's a lot of other information, and we can't ask you for every single little detail, but it may be beneficial to say these ones aren't open, and here's why.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Paul and I could probably put together sort of which parcels maybe
Right.
aren't accessible in size and age and all that, and, you know, get you kind of a list of those.
Cool.
And even though some of these have third-party agreements, as a lot of our properties do, there aren't many that are completely inaccessible. It's a matter of, say for example, you know, we did a few things at Bass Lake. There were a number of third-party agreements talking with the EPA. So, you know, as I look down through this list, even of the ones I have in blue that are listed as properties, for example, Beaver Creek, it's all underwater. It's virtually all underwater.
Right.
So that would be one that would be not be accessible, as opposed to, you know, something like a Stafford property right at the top. It calls out just very primitive dirt trails, so little accessibility, no parking, no buildings. Everyone's a little bit different, but everyone has a little bit of a different flair to where it could be worked through. And so to bring it back around, when I came in as director, we just looked at some of the ones that were a little more doable in the context of how long they've been sitting. The taxpayer paid for them in 1996, 1997. Here's Hyde Kaplan. Let's bring it on as Clarendon Woodlands. So, but yeah, we'll get you dates of acquisition on these.
And just like some of that, like you said, I know, like this is completely underwater. This will never be done. And that's just pulling those out. It doesn't have to be, you know, I don't want you guys to spend 100 hours doing it, but just continuing to update this. Even if next month you saw the dates and the month after, it's not, I don't need it tomorrow. I just think that we need to build kind of an easy sheet that it's easy for us to look at and say, well, that's why, or the next person, the next commissioner, et cetera.
Yeah, it's nice to see that the larger ones are being opened. You know, Veterans Legacy Woods is on the list, Staples Meadows is on the list, so, you know,
Right.
However you want to frame it, a nice long hiking trail, whatever the case may be.
Where is this Oakton property?
Oakton property is, it runs through with Maple Highlands. I just have to take a step back on the glasses here. Runs through to Mount Rowan Station. So actually Maple Highlands Trail, what we call Maple Highlands Trail, runs right through it. Oakton is right here. It's off of a dead-end street there. Tewksbury Lane. Yeah, everyone has a little bit of a different flair. You know, Haymire right here, we've had that for a long time. The issue is there's so many neighbors that surround us and the topography is so steep. I'm not sure how we would put a parking lot there, but that's something we would have to take a look at, so.
Well, and please don't understand, I'm not trying to open
No, I
every
know.
single piece of property that we have. I'm just trying to understand
Yeah,
why
right,
some of
right.
these have or have not.
Yeah. You know, even little things like Chickagami's open, Swan Creek is open, and so we can dedicate resources here. As I said, you know, we jumped up to something we're excited about next year, like Welton's Gorge. So. All right, good, thank you.
I think it's appropriate to reinvest in what you have because, again, I know personally that my buildings need constant upkeep just to, so I think you're on the right track there.
And that five-year plan, it was further down in the packet, sorry about that, it was supposed to be part of that. That's all right. Okay, so we will keep that on the agenda for old business and continue discussions on the familiarity with property, park plan, things of that nature, so thank you. Good questions, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Planning and operations update, we're just getting started with construction season bidding, so, I don't know if Matt has anything yet, so it's only February.
Obviously, we have the Welton's Gorge project. We have a smaller RFP for some repair to a couple of culvert pipes at Tupelo Pond and at Orchard Hills. And then Paul's working on a few grant applications right now, but yeah, we're really kind of looking at getting ready for spring right now at this point.
All right, thank you, Matt. And we'll move on to the request to bid Welton's Gorge property improvements. So, entertain a motion, bring it to the table.
So, second.
Questions, any discussions about the memos for planning, recommending Zerby Construction to award Zerby Construction the bid award for constructing the Welton Gorge property?
We've used them just for planning, right? We've used them multiple times and we're happy with them.
They've done, they were the low bid on the Fern Meadows project last year, and then 2 years ago, they were the low bid on the overlook at Sunnybrook. Both projects went well. You know, we had no issues, they were good to work with, and I thought they did quality work, so, you know, we have some familiarity there. But again, this is public bid, so we're going with the lowest and best bid usually.
People must like working with us, or must like considering us, because 14 bids is a lot.
Yeah.
And the advantage of that is it gives the taxpayer, the low bid, so a lot of competition. So it was good to see some great companies there that did the project, but Zerby is a good construction company to work with. So. All right, any other questions, thoughts? All right, call the vote to award this project to Zerby Construction. Mr. Bates?
Yes.
Mr. Preston?
Yes.
And Mrs. DeFord?
Yes.
Who made the motion and second on this?
Howard and then, yeah.
Next up, resolution 320, transfer some money. Is there a motion? Questions on the cash transfer? Just getting ready for.
Yeah, what did we transfer in last year to the retirement? No, is it about that same amount?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
And it's my understanding we do have one planned retirement this year. So. Okay. Any other questions, any discussion? Mrs. DeTore?
Yep.
Mr. Preston?
Yes.
And Mr. Bates?
Yes.
Next up, surplus property. 3 items listed there. In 2006 Ford F-350, trade-in, still weed whip, scrap, and old turf tires, it looks like. Starting bid of $100. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions on those?